Good morning, everyone. Let me take the attendance at the beginning of the class as we do. Abhay Jain, Abhay Singh Shekhawat, Dipendra, Dipti, Harshit Gupta, Jaipal Singh, Kashish, Lagan, Priyam, Raghav, Shreyansh, Tarun, and Vikramaditya. So let us just start the class. So we have to study today negotiable instrument. That is what we are going to start. Okay. So let me, any idea about what is negotiable instrument? Any one of you? Somebody might have studied it before somewhere. If you want to tell something about it, please tell me. What do you mean by negotiable instruments? And what are these, and why do we need them? Or what is the importance of having a negotiable instrument? Yeah, come on. Anyone? Anyone of you? Negotiable instrument. If somebody would like to give a try, you're most welcome for that too. Yes? Anyone? Nobody would? Ashutosh Sharma.
Yes, sir.
What is negotiable instrument?
I don't know, sir.
Okay, Jayant Dwivedi. Neha Goplani.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Jayan, what is negotiable instrument? Yes. Come on. Neha Goplani. Neha Goplani, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What do you mean by negotiable instrument, Neha?
Sir, no idea.
No idea.
No, sir.
Shreyansh Jain.
Yes, sir.
Yes. What is negotiable instrument?
Sir, no idea.
Hmm?
No idea, sir.
Anyone? Harshit Gupta. Mihir Agarwal. Okay. Let me just take you to this negotiable instruments if you don't have an idea.
Sir, it is a type of partnership or something.
Partnership? No. What else? Yes.
Sir, it's related to promissory note.
Sir, bills of exchange and checks.
Yeah. Who said promissory note? Dipti.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what is that?
Sir, it is related to promissory note.
Okay, only promissory note?
Sir, bills of
No,
exchange
bills
and
of
checks.
exchange and checks.
Sorry?
Bills of exchange and checks.
Promissory note, bills of exchange, and checks. Very good. Very good, Dipti. What else? So, what is this law about? Come on. Have you heard something going to jail because his check got bounced? Have you read in the newspaper something like this? Ever?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, how this happens? And why people previously were not at all scared of that their check will bounce, but nowadays they are very much scared that if the check will bounce, what will happen to them. So this is just because of this law, and this law is very old, as old as 1881 it was enacted in. Okay, but this law is equally applicable, equally good. Now why? Because we have studied the Contract Act, we have studied the Sale of Goods Act. So whatever dealings we have regarding the contract, regarding the sale of goods, this law actually, tells about how you can recover the money if you are having some proof that somebody has taken money from you. So this law particularly talks about the creation of those proofs and then enforcement of those proofs. Okay, so let us go further to this Negotiable Instrument Act. So this is session number 25th we are going to start today. So this is an overview of the entire act, what is there in the Negotiable Instrument Act. Okay, so these are the things which is covered under the act. So out of these, the important things and important aspects we will be going to cover. Okay, so it comprises of notes, bills, and exchanges. What just now Dipti told about. Okay, parties to notes and bills, negotiation, presentment, discharge of the liability of the parties to the instrument. Then a notice of dishonor if the instrument gets dishonor. Then what happens if dishonor happens? Then you have to get it noted. Then you have to protest it, and then you have to file a suit for the compensation. And then there are some special rules regarding evidence of these type of things which have happened, and then the inclusion of these things, extension of these things to international laws, and what are the penalties for the same. That what we will be studying in this. So these are the things regarding the negotiable instrument as such. So let us just go to the prelude, as I have already told you about that the sales of exchange of goods and services is a day-to-day activity, and people buy goods and services in order to survive, because everyone is not having everything, so they have to exchange goods. Previously barter system was there where people used to exchange goods for goods. Now because barter system has gone, and there is a equality in the value of the goods, which has been brought by the introduction of the currency as such. And the goods are sold by cash or on credit, and if it is on credit, then the debtor has to pay to the creditor certain sum after a certain period of time. So in modern business there are large number of transactions which are having, and it involves huge money. So when the huge money is involved, it actually comprises of a lot of risk factor also. And but at the same time, if we see even this the issue of these instruments also are not risk free. Okay, if somebody promises, and if he doesn't be up to the promise, then what will happen? What will happen if once has promised and the instrument has lost, okay, or it is destroyed, then also you lose your value in that. But at the same time, this has become a practice of accepting the negotiable instrument that is at least a less riskier than, means just if somebody is having a note that okay, I endorse it, I have taken the goods from you, and I owe you certain money, it is at least better than having a transaction without any security or without any any paper like thing. So in the light of this, but what happens when these instruments actually are dealt into, or you can say are dishonored, or something happens with these instruments, and what will be the liability of the party in that case? So this we will be studying in this Negotiable Instrument Act. So in the light of this, the Negotiable Instrument Act was passed in 1881, and there is no doubt that this act actually regulates the commercial transactions, and it was drafted to suit the requirements of the business which are prevailing during the period of the time. Okay, so now let us just study about the introduction. This is a Negotiable Instrument Act 1881, and it will be applicable to all India. And this act is regarding the law related to promissory notes, bills of exchange, and checks, as Dipti told us just now. Okay, so it is applicable to all India. And further, the provisions of this act are even applicable to the hundis. So what used to happen in the ancient time, there were hundis that a person used to actually write something on a piece of paper and give it to someone else. So that particularly was carrying a value, and it used to transfer from one person to another, because a person who is having the same value of transaction with someone else this can be transferred. Okay, so to hundis also this law is applicable, and it is also to the native instruments like treasury bills, bearer debentures, and all these. So this is applicable to those all in negotiable instrument which are issued either by the mercantile agent, or you can say it is according to the custom or whatsoever, but this will be applicable to that. So there has been the 3 amendments in last certain years. In last 20 years, there has been 3 amendments to the act. If you note previously, the cases related to the negotiable instruments were The maximum period to listen the case were 3 years. Now it has reduced to 6 months. So once the case is filed, and all the evidences are there, then the court has to decide it within 6 months. That has been something which is which has come to be a revolution also in this area. But still, it takes time for the court to resolve it. So court takes its own time, but still there has been something in the act that it has to be resolved in certain period of time. Further, there are extension of this act to even the imprisonment. So this is a criminal offense if you bounce a check. So even you can be jailed for that. So these all things have been included in the negotiable instrument. And recently, if some issue is pending in the court of law, then the court may order for an interim compensation also to the party if certain things are proved to certain extent, depending on the witnesses you have. So these have been the recent development in the recent past, particularly regarding the Negotiable Instrument Act. So let us just now understand what is the meaning of negotiable instrument. Negotiable instruments, as the word says, it's an instrument. Instrument over here, it doesn't mean the instrument which you can play, or ये बजाने वाला instrument नहीं है. So this is something which is freely transferable. This is a document, and it is freely transferable by custom of trade from one person to another, mere by endorsement and delivery. So one person can endorse on it and can further transfer this document to someone else. Okay, so the property in such instrument passes to a bona fide transferee for a value. Now this value is very, very important. So if the instrument is passed without any value over here is a consideration. Consideration is something in return. So the Act does not define the term negotiable instrument. However, Section 13 of the Act provides only for 3 kinds of. So this is something which is very, very amazing, that Negotiable Instrument Act doesn't define negotiable instrument at all, but it provides that there are the 3 types of instruments, which are promissory note, bills of exchange, and checks. So this entire act is about these 3 types of instrument: promissory note, bills of exchange, and check, and it will revolve around all these 3 types of instrument only. Next type of instrument is an instrument which is payable to order, or it's a bearer instrument. An instrument which is payable to order means a person who has been ordered in the instrument, the author of that instrument, or you can say the payer has to pay to that person whose name is there in the instrument. Okay, so when it is expressed to be payable to a specified person only, and does not contain a word which actually prohibits its transfer to someone else, then it is called you can say order instrument. A bearer instrument at the same time is having a property that anyone who holds the instrument can actually get the payment of the instrument as such. So that is called a bearer instrument. So when it is not expressly given to whom it is payable, or you can say it is written that whomsoever is holding the instrument will be the person to whom it will be payable. So that is a bearer instrument. So when the last endorsement, so whosoever has lastly endorsed writes his name, then this bearer instrument stops becoming a bearer. It then becomes an order instrument. So whosoever is the last person, if he writes the name on the instrument, then he has to take the payment of the instrument. Okay, so this is something related to the bearer instrument. Next is the essential characteristics of the negotiable instruments. We have already gone with this, and this will further also will be there. So these are the common things, that as it is an instrument, it has to be in writing, because it's something is written, it has to be endorsed, it has to be signed, and then it has to be freely transferred from one person to another. For this is because it is transferable from one person to another, that then only this negotiability will come. So holder, or the title is the holder of this instrument, will be free from all the defects. So these are the characteristics. So it can be transferred by number of times till its satisfaction, or till it is matured. And every negotiable instrument must contain either a promise or an order to pay. So there has to be something to pay for it. So these all, so 6th and 7th point are very, very important. So until and unless there is a order to pay, and that order has to be an unconditional one, then only this negotiable instrument will be called a negotiable instrument. The promise or order to pay must consist of money only. Now, you can only deal with the instrument in money. So anything in kind cannot be dealt in for. So nothing should be payable, whether in addition or in substitution of the money. Also, the sum payable must be certain. So there has to be certainty in the sum payable of for the money also. So now there are certain presumptions so as to call a negotiable instrument, or you can say there are some presumption which is made under this act. So until contrary provided, the following presumption should be made. Regarding considerations, every negotiable instrument is drawn for a value. So that is, a consideration has been received in order to write a negotiable instrument. So as to date, so every instrument, negotiable instrument bearing a date was made or drawn on such date, so that it must have a date also. So date signifies that it has been drawn on such and such date. Time of acceptance, every negotiable instrument, you can say, has to be accepted. If it's a bills of exchange, then it needs an acceptance, and such acceptance must be within a reasonable time, and that too before the maturity of the instrument. Next is time of so as to time of transfer. So every transfer of the negotiable instruments was made before its maturity, so it has to be transferred before maturity. Otherwise, what will happen if it is not transferred before maturity? After maturity, it is useless. It cannot be transferred, or it will be of no use. Next, as to order of endorsement. So everyone whosoever has been holding the instrument should endorse on it that I have, to whom it has been transferred, if it is an order instrument. Okay. Next is, it has to be properly stamped, and all the holders of the negotiable instrument will be called holder in due course. Means till its maturity. So this is regarding the presumption. So these presumptions may be rebuttably by the evidences to the contrary. So if these things are there, so this is something which is by default. If there is something which is on contrary present over there, then such thing will be considered over and above this. So until and unless some things are there, so this is something which is treated as a you can say by default in any of the instrument. So now we have studied about what is the nature of the instrument, what is the nature of this act. So this act particularly deals in three types of instrument: promissory note, checks, and bills of exchange. So one by one we will be taking each and everything, and we will be explaining it in a better way. So I will be asking you questions in between also, so please be prepared. Okay, so promissory note. So what do you mean by promissory note? Promissory note is just a promise. So as the name signifies, it is a note. It's a document which promises, and which the who will promise? A person who has taken the money will promise. What he will promise? He will promise to repay the money after a certain period of time. To whom? From whom either he has taken, or to someone whom he orders. Okay. So according to section 4, so this is given under section 4 of the Negotiable Instrument Act 1881. A promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a banknote or currency note. Now see, you have this written on the banknote and currency note. I promise to pay the bearer a sum of rupees 100. Now, so this is written on the promissory note, or other in Hindi it is, मैं धारक को 100 रुपए अदा करने का वचन देता हूं. This is something written on the promissory note, and it is signed by the governor of the RBA, and this power of governor has been conferred to the governor from the government of India, or you can say central government of the country. So every currency note will be having this type of promise. So those currency notes are not included in the negotiable instruments. These currency notes are not negotiable at all, because these are the currency. So every promissory note will be having a promise to pay certain amount. Okay, so it is containing an unconditional undertaking. So it's a promise, it's an undertaking, and unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay certain sum of money. So the sum of money must be certain only to the to the order. So to whom it is to be paid? To a person who is actually from whom the money has been taken, or to the person from whom money has been taken orders the payer to pay. Okay, so to whom it will be paid. So to the order of a certain person, or to the, and even it can be to the bearer of the instrument, that whomsoever will be holding it. So that person will be getting payment from the person who has actually issued it. So the person who makes the promise to pay is called a maker, and he is a debtor and must sign the instrument, and the person who will get the money, that is a creditor, that is called the payee. So he's a maker of the instrument, or you can say drawer of the instrument himself will promises the payee to pay the amount written in the instrument. Okay, so there are certain essential characteristics of a promissory note. First of all, it has to be in writing. Any oral promise will not be sufficient to be called as a negotiable instrument. There must be, and because it has to be an instrument, so that's why it has to be in writing only. Oral things cannot never be called as an instrument because there is no writing in it, there is no document being created. Sorry. So there must be an express promise to pay. Promise must be express. Okay, mere acknowledgement of debt is not sufficient. For example, I acknowledge myself to be indebted to B for rupees 1000 to be paid on demand for value received. Now this is a valid promissory note because a promise is there, acknowledgement of debt is also there. Now this is, now for example, second is Mr. B, I owe you OWE. Okay, now see the way it is written. I owe you rupees 1000. So this is an invalid promise note as there is no promise to pay. It is just an acknowledgement of debt, and acknowledgement of debt is not a promissory note because the person has only acknowledges, he has never promised the other person to pay certain amount. Okay, next is the this promise to pay must be definite and unconditional. There has to be some definite value for which is to be paid, and that value must be in money. Okay, so therefore the instrument may be payable on performance or non-performing of particular act or on a happening or non-happening of an event are not promissory notes. However, the promise to pay may be subject to a condition which according to the ordinary experience of the mankind is bound to happen. So there has to be certain condition, definite condition, and it should be unconditional thing to happen. Okay, for example, I promise to pay B rupees 500 7 days after marriage with C. So who knows who is going to marry with other person? The other person may also die, and both of the parties may change their mind not to marry, or one person can marry D also. So there is no possibility. So there is no chance. Or you can say there is a less chance for this to happen. So it is an invalid promissory note. It will not be called as a valid promissory note because the things are number one conditional, and secondly it is not definite. Next is I promise to pay B rupees 500 on D's death. Now this is something which is certain. So this is unconditional. So when D will die, some amount will be paid. Now contrary to this, just see the example number 3. I promise to pay B rupees 500 on D's death if D leaves some amount for me to be paid. So this is something, this is invalid note because D may or may not leave something on the death, but this is certain the death will happen. But at the same time, the second thing has become conditional that if D will give, then only I will give you. So this is something which is conditional, and this cannot be a promissory note. Yes, it can be a contract. It can be a contract, but it cannot be a promissory note. Okay, next is a promissory note must be signed by the maker. We have already discussed about, because it is written until unless it is signed, it is not valid. Next, it is promised to pay only money. For example, you cannot mix anything with the money. For example, over here in this, I promise to pay B rupees 500 to deliver him and to deliver my black horse also. So two things are there, 500 rupees also there and black horse is also to be delivered. So now this is not a valid promissory note. Why? Because there is something in kind is also mixed with the cash to be delivered. So it is that black horse is not a money at all. So accordingly, this particular thing will not be called as a promise note. Next is promise to pay certain sum. There has to be certain sum to be paid. So I promise to pay B rupees 500 and all other sum which shall be due. So now this all other sum which shall be due has actually make this particular promissory note as a invalid one because the amount over here is not at all certain. So the maker and the payee must be certain, definite, and it should be different person. So now maker and payee, I cannot just promise myself to pay certain things. So that will be totally invalid because a promise to himself or herself will be of no meaning. So it will not bound any other party to the contract, or you can say it is not at all invalid. Further, a promissory note cannot be made to the bearer. So one thing is for sure, promissory note has to be ordered instrument. It cannot be a bearer instrument. Only RBI can issue the bearer instrument because there are certain bearer bonds which are issued by the Reserve Bank of India or Central Bank of any country, just in order to control the money supply of that particular country. So those things can be done only by the Reserve Bank of India. Bearer instruments cannot be issued by a person. So promissory note cannot be issued as a bearer one, but bills of exchange can be issued as a bearer one. There has to be a proper stamping, then only the promissory note will be called as a valid one. Next is your bills of exchange. So we have studied about the promissory note. Now bills of exchange. So bills of exchange is an instrument in writing. Again, it has to be in writing containing an unconditional order. Now that was an unconditional promise. Now this is an unconditional order signed by the maker. A person who has making it, he is actually ordering the other person, and other person will accept the order and will return back this bills of exchange back to the drawer, or you can say the maker of the person. Okay, so signed by the maker directing a certain person. So it is a direction, it is an order to certain person regarding to pay certain sum of money to the order of a certain person or to the bearer of the note. So this can be one of the instrument which can be bearer, or it can be an unconditional order to by one person to another person to pay a certain amount. Okay. So and the other person has to accept it. So parties to the bills of exchange. Now there can be three parties where one person is drawer who is the maker of the bills of exchange. Now here the drawer of the bills of exchange will be the creditor who is actually given the money. So he will order the other person because he has given money to someone else. He has given money to drawee. He will order the drawee to just pay a certain money to some third person. So he will order the drawee to pay certain money, and that money either it will be for the third person, or drawer and payee may be the same persons also. So payee is a person named in the instrument to whom or to whose order the money is to be paid as directed by the drawer. Okay, so these are the essentials of bills of exchange. So it has to be in writing, it has to be express, and it must contain an express order to pay. It is not a promise to pay, it is an order to pay, because a drawer is giving an order to drawee to pay certain amount. So the order to pay must be definite, it must be unconditional, it must be, the instrument must be signed properly. So these all are the things which are the characteristics. And further, the drawer, drawee and payee must be certain. Okay, so all these parties may not necessarily be the three different persons. So only one can play a role of two. Okay, but all persons cannot be one. I draw a bill to myself and pay to myself only, and promises to pay myself. So this type of things are not there. Okay, so as per section 31 of the RBI Act, a bills of exchange cannot be made payable to the bearer on demand. So on demand, it is again, so it is made payable to the bearer, but not on demand. So if it will be on demand, then what will happen? These instead of money, this will start circulating in the economy and will spoil the supply of money in the economy. So that is the reason why these instruments are not at all allowed to be circulated as a bearer on demand. So it can be bearer, but it cannot be bearer on demand, because there is a time period, for maximum time period for which the bills of exchange can be issued, not beyond that. Further, the sum must be certain, the order must be to pay the money only, and it must be stamped, which we have already discussed. Okay, so this is a process of bills of exchange. For example, Mr. Sam, who is a drawer, and Mrs. Reith, who is a drawee. So Reith has actually taken goods from Sam, and Sam is now ordering Reith to just pay a certain amount. Okay, so he has sold goods and draws a bill, and Miss Reith drawee accepts, and so this bills of exchange is accepted by Reith. And then on maturity, what will happen? The Reith will pay the money to Sam, and in this way the cash transaction is complete, and the bill either will be disposed of or will be given back to the drawee who has accepted the bill after having a proper entry in the books of accounts. So this is the process of bills of exchange. So what is the difference between the bills of exchange and the promissory note? So this is a homework which you have to do. So I have written 5 points. You can have some more points which are to be done. Okay, so there is a difference. What is the difference? The difference in the definition is there. Okay, and then further, the nature of instrument. The promissory note is a promise to pay, whereas bills of exchange is an order to pay. So parties, there are two parties in the promissory note, whereas there are three parties in the bills of exchange. Further, the acceptance is necessary in case of the bills of exchange, whereas in case of promissory note, it is already accepted. That's why the promisor is writing something to the promisee. Next is payable at bearer. So promissory note cannot be payable at bearer, but the bills of exchange can be made can be drawn payable to bearer, but not on demand. It should be on presentment only. So this is about promissory note. Next is check. Check is given under section 6 of the act. A check is a bill of exchange drawn on a specified banker. Not to on whom it is drawn. It is drawn on a specified banker. It is not drawn on any person. So it is a bill which is, you can say, it is a drawn on a specified banker and not expressed to be payable otherwise than on demand. So it is to be payable only on demand. If somebody will not demand, it will not be payable, because banker will not be able to know who actually wants this bills of exchange to be paid off. Okay, so and it includes the electronic image of truncated check, and check is in the electronic form. So this definition has been added afterwards. So previously it was full stop over here, otherwise than on demand. Okay, so it includes the electronic image of truncated check and the check in the electronic form. Both are included in this. So what happens? Check is you can say like a bill of exchange. You can say it is drawn on a specified banker and it is payable on demand. Okay, so payable of demand means it should be payable whenever the holder chooses the payment to be made. So then what he will do, he will present the check to the banker, and the banker on the behalf of the person who was a creditor, who was a debtor, will give the money to the creditor. Okay. Next is a person. Banker includes any person acting as a banker, or a post office saving bank is also included in it. So that will be called as a banker. Now there are certain explanations. So explanation number 1, for the purpose of this section, the expressions check in the electronic form. Now what is a check in the electronic form? It means a check drawn in electronic form by using a computer source and signed in a secured system with a digital signature, with or without biometric signature, and asymmetric crypto system or electronic signature, as the case may be. So this is something which is called as a electronic form of a check. So electronic checks are issued, and these checks are to be signed by the maker of the person through their electronic signatures. Okay, so note, for the purpose of this section, the expression asymmetric crypto system, computer source, digital signature, electronic form, electronic signature shall have the same meaning as respectively assigned to them in the Information Technology Act 2000. There are the meanings of these things are given over there, so it has been adopted from there. So a truncated check means a check which is truncated during the course of the clearing cycle, either by the clearing house or by the bank, whether paying or receiving payment immediately on generation of electronic image of the transmission, substituting the further physical movement of the check in hand. So it is actually truncated, or it is actually cleared, it is actually swabbed, okay, at the time, and then further, once it is done, then it will be of no use afterwards. Okay, so it is called a truncated check. Next is explanation number 2. For the purpose of this section, the expression clearing house means a clearing house managed by Reserve Bank of India, or a clearing house recognized as a RBI. So it is either the clearing house established by RBI, or it is a clearing house which is recognized by the Reserve Bank of India, will be called as a clearing house. So State Bank of India is recognized as a clearing house for the banking. So expression number 3, for the purpose of this section, the expression asymmetric crypto system, these all things are having the same meaning as that of the what is given under the Information Technology Act 2000. So this is again given over here as an explanation. So a combined reading of section 5 and 6 tells us that bills of exchange is a negotiable instrument in writing containing an instruction to the third party to pay a sum of money at a designated future date, and that is to on demand. Whereas check is also bills of exchange, but it is drawn on banker, where the bills of exchange is drawn on on a person, the checks are drawn on the banker. So who are the parties to the check? So first is the drawer. So drawer means a person who draws the check or makes the check, or you can say a person who is actually writing the check. So a person who has to give payment from his account to someone else will write the check. So his liability is primary, or you can say conditional liability will be there. Second is the drawee, that is the specific bank on whom the check is drawn. So that particular bank is having the account of this particular person who will make the payment of the check from deducting the amount from the account of the drawer. So he makes the payment of the check. In case the check, in case of check, drawee is always a banker. So who is the drawer? Drawer is a person who holds a account in the bank, and drawee is a person. Drawee is who he will be always be a banker with whom the drawer has opened the account. So drawee in case of need, when in the bill or in any endorsement thereon the name of any person is given in addition to the drawee to be restored to in case of need, such person is called drawee in case of need. So drawee in case of need, suppose for example banker, the bank because of anything is not able to meet the requirement of what has been given by the drawer. So in that case, the drawee in case of need will be a person who will be having a secondary liability. Okay, so that is called drawee in case. Next is the payee, a person named in the instrument. So to whom the payment is made will be named in the instrument. So he will be the person named in the instrument. That is the person in whose favor the checks is issued, or to whose order the money is by the instrument directed to be paid is called the payee. The payee may be drawer himself, or it may be any third party. So it can be the drawer himself, or it can be the third party also, because your money is kept with the bank. So you can write a check on the drawee to just give you the money, because you also have deposited your own money with the bank. So in this case, you can write a check on the banker. You are not writing a check on yourself. So, but what you write to self in the check, we write to self means you want to withdraw some cash from the bank in that case. Okay. So the bills of exchange and check, a person who is a maker is called drawer. A person who is directed to pay is called drawee. Okay. So there are certain essential characteristics of checks, three only, because rest all are similar. So according to section 6, it should fulfill the following condition: that all the essential characteristics of bills of exchange has to be there and must be drawn on a specified banker, unlike bills of exchange, and it must be payable on demand, means whenever you will present it, it will be payable on demand. So these two additional features, B and C, distinguishes a check from the bill. Rest everything is like a bills of exchange only. Thus all the checks are bills, while all the bills are not checks. So I can ask you a question in your exam that explain all the checks are bills and all the bills are not checks. So you have to just tell me the things. So this is a sample of a promissory note. Now just observe this promissory note. Now I will show you the sample of 3 of these. So if you observe the sample of this promissory note, what it is written. So here the amount is written over here on the top left corner, and the place where it is drawn, and the date on which it is drawn. These all are the match these things with the characteristics of the bills of exchange. Okay. So 3 months after I promise to pay Sri Ramesh, that is payee, or to his order the sum of rupees 10,000 for the value received. So this is something which is written in the promissory note, because a person who is writing this, so Ram is writing it, he is promising Ramesh to pay a sum of rupees 10,000. Okay, so here Ram and the stamp will be there, and it will be signed by Ram, and to whom it is to be paid is given over here on the left corner, left down corner. Okay. Next is the specimen of a bills of exchange. Now here Mr. A is a drawer, because A is a creditor. Now he is ordering now see the language of this. It is an order. 4 months after the date, pay to Mr. B sum of rupees 10,000 for value received. Now this is an order, whereas over here it is a promise that I promise to pay. So this is the difference. So by seeing itself, you can see what is bills of exchange and what is a promissory note. Okay, so I may give you an image of promissory note or bills of exchange, and may ask you what type of instrument it is in your objective type question. So you must understand what it is. Okay, so this is something which is called a bills of exchange. So here there is an order, amount is there, a person who has drawer he is mentioned, to whom it is to be paid is also mentioned, and to see who has agreeing to pay. So the drawee will accept it and give it back to Mr. A, and he will keep it till he pays the amount to B. So this is a specimen of bills of exchange. In the case of check, if you see, it is something. So it is a check of any bank. So it is a check of ABC Bank. So ABC Bank issues a checkbook to the people who actually open their account. Pay dash. So it is again a order to the bank. Okay, pay dash to whom it is to be paid. The money to whom money is to be paid. That is the payee. Here the amount. There here the name of the person will be written. A sum of rupees. So now how much amount is to be paid? It is written over here. Date is mentioned when it is written because checks are not valid after 3 months of its issue date. Previously this was 6 months. Now it has been amended and afterwards it has become 3 months. So account number is given from which account the bank has to give the payment, and the bank address is given, and there is a number over here. If you see, there are check numbers. Okay, so these number of checks, and this is a unique number which is given on the for every check. So just in order to see whether which number of check has got payment, and the signature of the person who is the maker of the check. So this check is actually given and provided to the person to whom the payment, and the person will demand it on the he will present it to the banker, and he will demand the money from him. Okay, so this is all about your negotiable instruments. For introduction also, 3 types of negotiable instruments we have studied, and the essentials of these negotiable instruments we have also seen. So homework for the day is that you have to distinguish between all these 3 types of instruments. Okay, so first you have to distinguish between promissory note and bills of exchange, and then afterwards you have to distinguish between bills of exchange and checks. And if it will be better, it is not a homework, it is if it will be better if you can prepare a complete chart in which the explanation of all these 3 can also be mentioned, which will be helpful for you to just revise the things. So this is number 1. And second homework, what you have to do is that I have shown you the specimen of the 3 checks. Oh, sorry, 3 negotiable instruments. So what you have to do is you have to match all these with the qualities of the negotiable instruments. For this, you may have to see my video again. So those who have not subscribed this, please subscribe the channel and see the video again. That what are the characteristics of these 3 instruments, and from there pick up the point, and you have to just prepare this instrument in your copy. Okay, you have to just prepare this instrument in your copy, these all 3 instruments, and you have to match it with the qualities, or you can say characteristics, of each instrument. So this is the homework for you, which is to be submitted again by the end of this week. Okay, so this is all about the negotiable instrument. Any questions from your side, so I will be able to answer it. No questions? Okay, so I'm just taking attendance now because we are going to end the class. Yeah, so Akash Jain, Abhay Jain, Abhay Singh Shekhawat, Abhishek Singh Sisodia, Adhiraj, Akash Jindal, Ashutosh Sharma, Azan Ayub, Deepak Thanwani, Dipendra Gujar, Dhananjay Singh, Dipti Rakesh, Devyanshi Choksi, Fazal Ahmad, Gaganjeet Singh, Gaurav Sharma, Hardik Raheja, Harshit Gupta, Jaypal Singh, Jayant Dwivedi, Kanishk Vilochi, Kashish Sharma, Khushi Wadhwa, Lagan Mahipal, Lakshya Sharma, Mihir Agarwal, Naman Jain, Naman Singh, Neha Goplani, Priya Gupta, Parija Gupta, Parth Gautam, Pranav Sharma, Priyam Soni, Raghav Singhal, Rajiv Singh Anand, Rishabh Goyal, Rishi Kanungo, Sachin Yadav, Sagar Shirvi, Sahil Khandelwal, Shashank Khosla, Shreyansh Jain, Shubhang Surbhi Singhal, Tanish Agarwal, Tarun Singh, Vaishnavi Mishra, Vikramaditya Singh, Yashashvi Purohit, and Yashpal Singh Maheja. Fine, guys. So have a nice day to all of you. See you tomorrow. Okay, and please keep on doing the homework daily. You must do it on the daily basis, right? Then only you will be able to, you know, do the good justice. Okay, thank you to all of you. Best wishes.
सर
Yeah.
मार्क्स कब बता